y'all. Welcome to another week of Unity TV. Here we talk about life, love, faith, wisdom, and leadership. If you guys have been following us this entire month, we've been going over the segment of Revelation 12:11. This week we have a special guest, Mr. Darius Clayton, aka the second Darius, right? So guys, we got him here today. He's going to talk to us about his story, his testimony. Revelation 12:11 says, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So D, I asked everyone this question this entire month. How do you interpret that verse or that text?
We overcome by the blood of the Lamb. I feel like a lot of people say that God won't give you more than what you can bear, and I actually think that's false.
Right.
I think he'll give you what he'll give you, but the thing about it is he won't leave you. So if you learn to lean on him,
right,
he'll cover it. He'll make everything okay. The word of our testimony, I tell people this all the time. Everything that we go through is a part of the story. Right? It's to get to the ending. But you cannot get to the ending with the person that you are right now. So you have to go through tests, which creates testimony.
Right.
So in order to build yourself, you have to go through the obstacles, you have to go through the barriers, you have to go through the sacrifices and the no's to build up the strength to become who you're supposed to be.
Right.
And then you can use that as a blueprint for other people to overcome or to get through their journey.
No, I like that, man, because they say you don't experience success without trials. I mean, you hear this all the time. We actually, you and I together, we study self-improvement people and stuff like that. People that write books and talks about entrepreneurship, and that's like basically like a common thread, right?
Right.
That we hear that all the time, man. But you said also something about leaning on him. Like when you learn to lean on him, God won't give you more than what you can bear. Is a cliche statement, but it will. Whenever you do have so much going on, would you agree it's kind of easy to not forget, but get a little confused that God is in the midst of it?
Oh, definitely.
And I think that, and it's probably why a lot of people some of them, they do give up in that time frame.
If it's not in your regularly scheduled routine, you will forget about it.
Right.
Like, so if you're not like in his presence every single day, if you're not in that environment every single day, if you're not intentionally looking for him or seeking him, then yeah, you'll forget about him in a heartbeat. And then you wonder why things are getting hard.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that's good, man. Obviously, the word says he will never leave nor forsake. I would listen to, Stephen Furtick, right? His wife, Holly Furtick, she had a sermon. I don't know the name of it, but it was years ago. I was listening to like a Mother's Day sermon. Don't ask me why I listened to a Mother's Day sermon, but I was. And it was good, man. But she said that God's promises are not suggestions. When God make a promise, that's like it's a done deal.
Exactly.
But a lot of time we take his promises as something he suggests, or maybe I would never leave you nor forsake you, where he may or may not, but he said he would never leave nor forsake. So if you get in that word, whenever you do feel some sense of stress, depression, whatever you go through, whether it's anything that's not of God, again, you can't get yourself in a situation where you feel a little lost in that time frame. Now, I gotta ask you this question, man. When is your birthday, brother?
March 11th.
Okay, so you just made 29.
I just made 29.
Okay, so you are officially the secondary. I was trying to figure out who was older.
I knew you was older. I knew you were older.
I didn't know.
That's why I don't give you no slack when you say it, because I know you older. So cool, I give you that respect.
I hear that, but you're running it though, man. That's awesome. So, but yeah, man. So as I don't know if you got a chance to like dive into the segments, which is actually funny because you have dived into the segment because you actually are a video guys. You have dived into the segments, but listening to the other three that we had before you, we talked about anxiety, we talked about depression, we talked about homosexuality and the drug life. We also talked about pornography, so we covered a lot, and there's so much more that people go through and things like that. Now, D, I've been knowing you since 2013ish, 14ish, something like that. But I don't know your story per se. So if you can, man, just kind of share with people some of the things that you have kind of gone through, maybe some things that you may be still going through, and ways that you learned to overcome those things.
It's crazy. My story is more related to the first week's story.
Right.
I battle with depression, and I when I say battle, I mean it's a constant thing.
Right.
When I was younger, Genesis 2:18 says that a man shouldn't be alone. Paraphrasing.
Yeah.
And people, when you hear that, people automatically think, oh, that means man and wife or whatever. But I think in general, like, a man should not be alone. Like, our genetic buildup is to be social creatures. We're not meant to be by ourselves. And I think for most of my life, being a middle child and not necessarily getting along with other people, I felt alone my entire life, even though I was in a room full of people, and it led to depression. And I couldn't come out and tell people, hey, I'm depressed, or hey, I'm sad, or because in my mind it made me feel weak. So I tried to create other ways to let people know that I need help by becoming angry. I think she said that too. She tried to mask her sadness by becoming angry, and I think that's a common theme when it comes to depression. So I used to get mad. I was an angry kid, and I used to always flip out at the drop of a pencil for no reason. I've done things that I probably wouldn't have done otherwise. I've stolen. I've tried a couple of different type of drugs, not anything heavy, but just things that I wouldn't do normally because I grew up in a Christian-based household. There was one time, I'm not gonna say I tried to commit suicide, but I did cut my wrist, and I'm reminded by it every day because I have this scar right here. I don't know if you can see it, but
that's it,
and that's a whole nother story. But how did I get over it? I used to get in these big, deep depression states, and I would cry and cry and cry and cry, and I would feel worthless. I would feel like I was in that straitjacket. Like she said, that's a true story. If you don't get to it before it gets to you, it will consume you and it will blanket you, and there's really nothing you can do but cry. And so the way that I learned to get over my depression is by being productive. Productivity. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but I work. She said it earlier, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. I try to keep myself busy, and it leaves less room to think in that nature, because I'm focused on all the positivity, I'm focused on all the progression, I'm focused on all the people that I hang out with on a daily basis, that I don't give myself room to think about the negative things. But when it does come, I can go back to all the good things that I've done. And I think I heard you say that about the testimonies that people tell you about their lives, about, hey, because of you, this happened. Because you said this, I did that. Or if it wasn't for you, those things help build or create a go back to. So when I get depressed, when I feel like there's no reason for me to be on this earth, or I feel like I haven't done enough, I just go back to all the people that I've touched, the lives that I touched, and the people that I've kind of helped build up in a sense, and it gives me hope again. It reminds me what my purpose is, and it helps me keep going.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I started something about 3 years ago called a gratitude list, man. I do it every first of the year. And I just literally reflect back on everything that happened the prior year that I'm grateful for. Whether it was a certain CD that came out that I really enjoyed that year, my health, my wife, my family, no one in my family passed away this year. And I think that reflection of the good can also pull you out whenever you go through that situation of darkness. And I do like what you said too about not good for man to be alone. And I'm with you. I don't think it was just about marriage. I do think it's all inclusive. That God created man to be in unison with his body, community. It goes back to talk about the church, right? The church is a body of believers. And it kind of hurts me, and it kind of saddens me at times when I hear a lot of people talk bad about other church people. Well, they do this that way or they do that way, but they gotta first of all they gotta realize that we all are one body.
Right.
So it's kind of like if I say something about, let's say you was a pastor, and I say, you know what, well, Pastor Secondaries, he don't do it the right way. Pastor Secondaries, man, he over there preaching that false stuff. That's almost like I'm cutting my own hand off in a sense, because we all are one body. And well, I'm just hurting myself, but a lot of times it's God created us to be unified with one another, as you said, because once you are isolated, the things that you go through are going to come to you the fastest at that time, because now you are by yourself, and who can fight it off, who can distract you from what's coming to you, so to speak. And I like that, man. That's pretty powerful. So, and I know you from Lake Charles or Alaska area?
I was born in Anchorage, Alaska, and I was pretty much raised out here in Lake Charles.
I don't know much about Alaska, but I know at least like 2 or 3 people, and I don't know if it's like the stats in Alaska is high for depression and stress and stuff like that. Is that the area was like it's dark a lot of times?
Yes.
I got you. All right. So Seattle and Alaska, I heard those 2 spots, due to the weather and the climate and all that stuff, it has a lot to do with your mental health and the way that you perceive things. I did the research on that. Charlemagne the God actually not told me about it, but I heard him talk about it one time. I think Seattle rains a lot, and then Alaska is very, very, very dark all the time.
Okay.
So we had a friend at one point she was going through it, like really was going through it. Do you think, not to kind of dive into it, but do you think that has something to do with, like, you walk in sunny LA, I mean, you should feel good about it being sun and palm trees, but if you walk in Alaska and see nothing but darkness and cold, do you think that has something to do with it?
I wouldn't know firsthand. I left Alaska in '96, so I was still kind of roughly young. But being an advocate of your environment, I feel like if you are like in dark a lot, it could have a play on your mentality. I really think it's more or less the things that you involve yourself with. More so like the people that you're with, the things that you watch on TV, the things that you listen to,
right,
more than the sunlight.
Right.
But it could have a play. I just
gotcha.
I don't know for sure.
Gotcha. I just wanted to get your insight on it, but that's it's pretty. When I read it, I heard it from Charlemagne, and then I read something about Alaska. I thought it was pretty insightful. I'm like, okay, that's not cool, but it's kind of crazy how that stuff plays out. And I had something I wanted to ask you too, man. I'm trying to. Come on, D. Bring it back. It ain't coming. But so right now, one way you say that you say you work. Now, personally, and I talked about this in the first video, there were times where I struggle with that depression as well. And again, I got over that in 2011, 2012. I don't go through those dark moments, but I also try to mask it with working hard. Now, I find that can be an addiction as well. Working hard, workaholic. Like men, especially African American men, we die sooner than most on the earth. I think the average life expectancy for African American male, I want to say, is like 55 or something like that. Due to the crap that we eat, due to we want to be the man and we're gonna work, we're gonna provide. Could it be? Again, I don't know. Watching Charlemagne, he came out with a new book called
Shook One.
Shook One, talks about the mental health and things like that. And I think, I'm real big on conspiracies and stuff. I think the reason why a lot of this mental health stuff is coming out now in the African American community is really for profit gain. But that's just my opinion. But God dog, I lost my train of thought. Charlemagne, Shook One. What was
Profit
it?
gain.
Profit gain. I said something before Charlemagne. Oh, the black man.
Yeah.
Working. So we ended up we worked so hard to mask all the other stuff that we got going on, and then we die to a point where we don't make it to 85, 90 years old like some other ethnicities do. And I had to pull back because I realized, okay, I'm married now. We don't have any kids yet, but I said, what if we got to a point where I was a hard worker, just because I want to mask something that's inside of me, but I don't make it to 45 or 50-year-old to see my great grandkids. Is that worth it? Like, what would you say in that scenario?
No, it's not worth it. But the way that you kind of worded it makes it seem like you're stuck if you do, you're stuck if you don't.
Right.
And that's why I think it is a good thing to seek help. I mean, always indulge in the Lord, but don't be afraid to do tangible things as well, as far as like seeing a therapist or talk to your minister, your pastor, your preacher one-on-one. I mean, I have regular conversations with my bishop and his and the first prophetess, but you got to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to talk about it.
That's good. Yeah, talk about it. So again, back to testimony, which came back, coming back to that one word testimony. Once you talk about it, not saying it's going to go forever, but it'll flee for that moment. Think about, again, when the devil came to Jesus and trying to tempt him with, I can give you all this stuff, and if you can turn this stone to bread and all this stuff he was trying to tempt him with, literally Jesus spoke back the word to him, and that what made him flee. So I noticed with me personally, anytime I may get a unfamiliar spirit that comes back, and I call it unfamiliar because I'm not in that realm anymore, but if it starts to come back, I'm like, okay, I see what this is about. I see what's about to happen, and I speak it out. It leaves every single time. So if you get to a point where you are starting to feel a little down and depressed, you can go work it off. You really can. But soon you're going to have to go to sleep eventually. So I think that whole concept of saying, you know what, devil, it's not for you, bro. I mean, you gotta get out of here, man. It's fun. I don't know why we think every existence is a guy. It's the weirdest thing in the world. Like the devil is a guy, God is a guy. Like, but anyhow, man. But I do appreciate your insight on that too, man. And now, it's kind of cool to know that not cool to know that you struggle with it, but now you're actually a motivational speaker. So just imagine how many people you talk to day in and day out, your speaking engagements, the things you do, that you're touching people that have been through what you have gone through. Like you said earlier, you are going to be helping somebody that's going through the situation that you're going through. Like people come to you and talk to you about that. Honestly, what pulled you into that realm of speaking?
My depression.
Okay, got it.
Because honestly, what I was going through it one time, and I was literally crying out. Like I was crying out on Facebook, and the things that I was saying that I was going through on Facebook, people were receiving.
Right.
And when they were receiving it, it made me feel so much better about myself because I was able to touch.
Right.
I want to feel it again. I want to feel it again. So it just became me pouring everything from me into society or social media, and one thing led to another, and getting phone calls to go here, phone calls to go there, just telling people pretty much and I'm not saying that I went out there and telling my exact story, but just talking about the things that made me feel better. Mm-hmm. And it just caught wind like a wildfire. And to add on to my story from earlier, another thing that kind of helped me focus more on achieving more, my mom lost her eyesight. Mm-hmm. And when she lost her eyesight, I did something dumb. I stole, and her being blind, she had to go and find somebody to bring her to the place that I was at, that they had me. And just, the look on her face, she was already going through what she was going through, and all I did was add more to it. So I felt like I owed it to her. Mm-hmm. To become more of a blessing than a curse. Right. So that just kind of helped it. But to your previous question, I overcame my depression, or I found better ways to deal with it by speaking out and talking and being productive. People receiving it, it became addictive, and honestly, I really just can't let it go. Can't let it go.
And you shouldn't, man. Like I said, every time you gotta visualize it. Like every time I get up there and I'm talking to people, whether it's a paid gig or not a paid gig, every time I'm getting up there, I'm getting cut cut free every single time. Like one more strand is being loosened off of me every single time I get up there. That's one way that I would look at it if I was you. And last thing I want to ask you, and then we're gonna kind of wrap this one up, is I would kind of almost bet that the enemy has discouraged you in your motivational speaking career and things like that. With maybe this won't work. Ain't nobody really listening to you. Oh man, you probably should stop. I'm almost bet to say that happened in the past, or if it's happening now. And the reason why I'm saying that, because you went through what you went through to free other people for what they're going through. But if he know that your speaking could get them out of that, he gonna do whatever you gotta do. Whether it's your equipment goes bad, whether it's somebody say, you know what, well, we can't pay you, or whatever they may say. Those things are going to come up. Have that ever came up? Ever?
I mean, they come frequently. I'm not gonna say anything like tangible, like my equipment breaking or people turning down gigs or anything. I think it's a lot of mentally, like you said, like oh well, like my first youth empowerment series, there was only like 3 people there in the room, you know, or there's so many other people that are doing the same thing that I'm doing. What makes me so special? You know, just those thoughts come in, and you have to understand that everything is subjective. Like everything is based on personal opinion. I have to revert back to the things that I talk about. You know, so everything is based off of personal opinion, and you know, everybody has their own opinion. Some people are gonna like what I do, some people are not gonna like what I do. But to get to the end, I have to stay in the game.
Right. No, that's awesome, D. Hey, Darius, man, you know, obviously, bro, we really appreciate you coming in, man, and talking and doing this. Let the people know how they can stay in contact with you.
Facebook, Darius D. Clayton on Facebook, Darius Clayton on Instagram. My email address is dariusclayton25@gmail.com.
All right. Y'all have a good one.